days, and many people, and Frank says this, that we don't find these pure models in place. We actually find a mix of these in different departments, in different policies. We find mixes of bureaucratic public administration, new public management, and new public governance, and sometimes they do collide with each other instead of making each other ineffective. So some people talk about hybrid forms of state where coexisting different forms of democracy. And the idea of democracy is coming in now because I want to have also democracy here. Yeah. So what they say, there is a shift from the primacy of the hierarchical model of democracy, which is very much fed by the representative democracy model, to one characterized by the increase of choice and flexibility at the local level and at the regional level. And then at the local and at the regional level, we will see the coincidence of several models of democracy, which will vary in different regions and sometimes in different, in the same region or in the same locality, in the same tool sometimes. This has been studied too. Also, considering that, and again, considering that there are also several models of democracy going on, and some of them connected to these governance debates, and with also different meanings, and I want to have it also in your mind. A model of consumerist engagement, where the idea of participation is very much close to the idea of the client of the state. If the client doesn't like the service, it can shift and move to somewhere else. And it's very much based on surveys, consultations, and charters, the way citizens clients express their aspirations is through surveys, polls, consultations. Another model is participatory engagement, empowering local communities to take ownership of their lives at the community level, usually in the horizon of the community. So they will solve or be empowered to solve their own problems, but usually those problems, there is also big literature on how this idea of community closes down the interdependencies with other scales and levels, and how people get persuaded
15.
that 15 minutes? Yeah. Get persuaded, I knew, that all their problems are being have origins in that community or locality and can be solved in that community and locality. So there is an empowerment of the community in this perspective. Citizen-centered democracy, this inspiration in Habermas, the public sphere, the public interest being expressed in the public sphere and influencing the public sphere, and then influencing government for policies. The stakeholder democracy, where people is organized in stakeholder groups. You are clients, you are workers, you are organized in groups, and your role in participating comes from those groups that you belong to, but you are classified in different groups. Stakeholder democracy is actually also interesting because stakeholder democracy you are a group in relation to, local authority, or in relation to something. You are a group that is constituted by that authority and by the relationship with that local authority. You are not a group constituted outside of that relation. So you are stakeholder of something, stakeholder of some interest, which is not the one that you define, but it is defined for you. And you are the one being defined as client or user or worker or something else. And radical democracy, which has to do with the idea of the different interests and different visions, and that they are in clash and in discussion. And this is one way of gaining space in a democracy, is the different groups, in these different views and antagonisms, to trying to influence policy to change it in their favor. So another even idea of also of the state, that the state is also a place where you can input, where with different forces you can input different aspirations. Models of social innovation. After all of that, the models that we could correspond to, this can be even more than debated. So for this, the first one, I do see that all these things that we built about social movements, third sector influence in democracy, and yes, this idea that the third sector or social movements brought a lot of social innovation. The idea is that the social movements in their own way, through the political process, or third sector organizations, also through the political process, would be influencing, or creating social innovation, then to be scaled, incorporated by the state. And you would demand, you know, a representative democracy structure and a sort of public administration structure in order to incorporate these innovations and scale them to become public policy. It happens with the social security, with the welfare state. It happens in the movements of the 60s, where social welfare incorporated all these new ideas about